25 years, this is a long time, obviously. Going back, re-exploring these songs, re-recording them again. How did your perspective change 25 years later?
Well, it just kind of gave me the opportunity to objectively look at this record, kind of break it down, analyze it, all the parts, I mean, all the intricate details, and really come away like feeling really proud of the record. I mean, I'm going, hey, man, I wrote this stuff when I was 18 years old. I was somewhere between 18 and 19 years old when we recorded it. And this stuff holds up, man. This music holds up. The lyrics, the songs, the vocal melodies, the production, all of it holds up today. And the general consensus in the interviews I've been doing is like people agree that if it was put out today, it would sound just as current, just as relevant, because I always wanted, my goal was to make timeless music, not something that sounded trapped in an era, like pop music often tends to do. It just gets trapped in this one decade, if you will. And I wanted to write songs that people could listen to for years and years to come, for generations. And I think we accomplished that. And I just look back and I'm really proud of that. I'm really grateful for it because I know that it wasn't all 100% me. But to think of how young I was and listen to this and go, man, I love playing this stuff just as much today as I did when it was new. And people are selling out venues, buying tickets to come hear this music today, 25 years later, and they're just as fired up to hear it. I mean, it speaks for itself.
So when you look at the tracks on Trouble Is, going into the studio, were there a couple moments or a couple tracks in particular that you said, ooh, you know what? I do want to change a little bit of this. I want to try to approach this angle. Were there some aspects that you definitely wanted to maybe reshape and revisit at a different vantage point?
So I thought about that. And so what we originally did is we went into the studio and I would call out a song, right? And we go, okay, we're going to do True Lies, right? So first we're going to do True Lies just like the record. And then as soon as we felt like we got that, and I'm like, okay, now we're going to play True Lies like we're on stage, because these things have evolved over the past 25 years. You know what I'm saying? And so we're going to play this as if we're on stage right now, and the way we would play it, the way it has evolved over the past 25 years. And so we essentially did two versions of the record. And so we tracked all of the songs and we had two versions of each song. And then I'm like, okay, what do I do? Do I pick one approach or the other? Do I pick the more faithful approach or the more evolved approach? Do I pick, okay, well, we'll do this version of this song and that version of that song? And what I really kind of concluded was, I thought it was too much. When I would listen back, for example, to Blue on Black, that was kind of the defining song for me, because I listened to it and I go, okay, in the studio, everything's under a microscope, right? So you break it down and you go, hey, Chris, close your hi-hat just a little more, and it's going to alter the vibe, or let's try this snare instead of that snare, and this ride cymbal instead of that. Or, hey, when you're playing the bass, like leave this space open, right? Well, when you're playing live, like some of that stuff is kind of goes out the window. It's like you just play it the way you play it, and it is what it is. But I started to realize that people have been listening to this record for 25 years, right? And there's a certain level of attachment, that comes with that. And I was kind of starting to feel like we were getting too far away from the vibe, which is so important. And so I decided we're going to go with a more faithful approach. So I wasn't doing any crazy drastic changes. What I wanted to do I wanted to capture the vibe. So when people press play, they immediately, their brain registers, I know that record. That's the Trouble Is record, because that's what it registers. That's what that is. And then as they're listening, then all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, what was that? It's just like little inflections, little guitar riffs that are phrased slightly differently. Maybe Noah sang one line in the song just slightly different than the original, just little nuanced details to grab your attention, so that then you go, oh, I know that record. Oh, but I am having a unique listening experience here,
Yeah, as a music fan, do you like when other artists go back and re-record their music?
Well, I understand why they do it. There's a multitude. Some people want to do it because there's things that have been driving them crazy about their record that they wish they would have done differently, and this is their opportunity to change it. For me, I looked at the body of work as a whole, and I'm going, there's nothing about this that I feel bad about. Like I'm happy with I'm proud of all of it. Even if there was like a little, like there was one lick in like True Lies, I think it was King's Highway, that it always stood out to me as a mistake. And then at the end of the day, when we went in to like redo it, I played the mistake. I did it on purpose, like, because I'm like, you know what? That stands out to me every time I listen to that song, and it's just part of the song.
Yeah.
Other people do it because there's a business case to re-record it, because, the original record company owns your masters, and now you can have a version of one of your favorite records that you made, and now you own it. There's a lot of different reasons to do it. So I don't know. I'm a fan of artists being able to do what artists want to do. And if that means going back and revisiting a record, changing it all, or making a faithful reproduction or something anywhere in between, if that's what you feel compelled to do and there's a reason to do it, then I'm all for that.